Hi, welcome to this test video. I am Vidit Ingvar from Iceland, and well, round 6 is about to get underway as I am recording this, but I want to have a look at and review another game from round 5, and it's between Sam Shankland, which we haven't looked at so far, and Ding Liren. Well, Sam, wow, he had a fantastic 2018. He became the US champion ahead of Nakamura, So and Caruana. Just unbelievable tournament. And he propelled his rating. He was below 2700, but then he propelled it over 2700, and now he's sitting on north of 2720 and has been doing great, rarely losing games. And so far in the tournament, I think he has drawn all his games, but now he's facing the best player of 2018 when it comes to rating performance, Ding Liren, the unbeatable Ding, who only lost one game, classical game in 2018. So Sam has the white pieces in this one, and he opens with pawn to e4. And he probably did that because, well, Ding is a rather classical player, and he almost always goes for pawn to e5. And we have the Ruy Lopez. And we have the good old main line with a6. There's no knight f6 Berlin. Don't want to say nonsense, but that's what everybody's playing these days, knight f6. But now the main line a6. Bishop back to a4, and all the main moves, castles, bishop b7, rook e1, b5, bishop to b3, and black castles. Black can play d6 or castle. Usually when black castles, he wants to play the martial attack. So d6 immediately would eliminate that possibility, but castles sort of keeps the options open. The main line here is to go c3, which Sam didn't do, probably because he didn't want to face the marshal. So d6 would be the main line when we go to, depending on what white does, black will choose to play the Giri line, the Briar, etc. besides Sev. But the martial attack is d5, and not everybody is ready to face this. White usually takes on e5, and here black has a choice. Modern players usually play c6 here, but the original martial attack was knight to f6. I think I have a video on a game between Capablanca and Marshall, where I'm talking about a tweet from Julian Assange. I will give you a card if you want to have a look at that. But a very interesting invention by Frank Marshall. But yeah, the main line is c6, d4, and black gets a big attack here. Although these days it's close to being a draw at the highest levels. But you have to know a lot of theory, and Sam chose to play h3 here, which yeah, bypasses the marshal. Black can still play d5, but it's completely different. So bishop b7 first is played, d3, and now d6 by Ding. Again, he can play d5, and that's actually a very viable option. It's a pawn sacrifice as well, and this occurred in the game Karakin and Carlsen in the 2016 World Championship, and that game ended in a draw. So this is definitely an option as well, but Ding decides to play d6, keep it more you know, Spanish, if you will, sort of classic Ruy Lopez or Spanish development. c3, and now sort of the Giri way, the Giri line, black goes knight a5 and c5. Sometimes the white pawn is on d4, and usually it ends up on d4. Knight b to d2 and rook e8. So sort of all the classical Spanish moves. The knight goes to d2, but now it reroutes to f1, going either to g3 or e3, most often to g3. And the white usually wants to make something happen on the king side, trying to use the f5 square, for instance. But Ding now plays h6. He plays rook e8 with the intention to play bishop f8, but the general consensus nowadays is that you want to play h6 first to prevent The bishop coming to g5, so h6, knight e3, and bishop f8. And here, well, this has occurred in many games, and usually white has been playing knight to h2 here, and many high-level games from that position. But I think this move here by Shankland was a bit criticized by many, the move pawn to b4. And after this, it seems that the initiative will pass over to black. He takes the pawn, the knight retreats, which it kind of wants to do anyway. It went to a5 just to make way for the c-pawn to move, and now it has moved, so the knight gets a more centralized post. Also, we are attacking this pawn, so white has to defend it. And now the novelty of the game. There was one game at least, actually Mamedyarov had the white pieces, a famous champion of the past. And in that game a5 was played, which is also a very serious option for black here, but d5 seems like the principled move. And if you look at this position, we have a more or less symmetrical pawn structure, and if black is first to play d5, it's clear that something has gone wrong for white, because usually white is trying to achieve d4 eventually, but black beats him to it, so the initiative is firmly on black's side. Here, another bad move by Shankland. Perhaps he should have taken on d5 here and tried to hold on, play bishop e3, and okay, some pressure on the e5 pawn, but black's position is easier to play. He can play rook a to d8, put some pressure on the d3 pawn, and the break with a5 is definitely on the cards, and yeah, much more dangerous than white ever going a4. He can't really go a4 because of the pressure on b4, so a5 is a very dangerous option for black. But instead, Shankland played knight to g4, Ding took, and now somewhat forcing sequence, he takes on e4, takes on d1, and despite the queens coming off, this is very difficult for white, because black strikes now with a5, and because of the pressure here, white is forced to take on a5. And just look at the black pieces, they're all active. The knight, it's ready to jump into c4. From there, putting pressure on a3, along with the bishop on f8, which is putting pressure, and the rook on a8, which is putting pressure as well. Bishop on b7, well placed, attacking the e4 pawn, and the g4 pawn is, well, sort of a tactical target for black, who can reposition his bishop with tempo, attacking the pawn. Meanwhile, white's pieces are more or less passive, so a very difficult position for white here. Shankland played rook b1, attacking the pawn on b5, but Ding simply protected it, and now he's ready to play knight c4, which would win the a3 pawn, so Shankland has to play another passive move, knight to d2. But this relieves the pressure on e5, so the black rook can move to the d file. Now pinning action on the knight. So big pressure. Shankland tries to bring the king, wants to bring it over to e2 or e1 to protect the pieces. But knight b7, getting ready to reroute the knight, coming to perhaps this nice square, even this one, probably c5. Putting pressure here, but most importantly, he's now attacking the a3 pawn with two pieces, so white defends it. Perhaps there was an option to play bishop b2 here, go for a small counterattack on this pawn, and try to activate, maybe sacrifice a pawn, but at the rook b3, it seems like this position is really, well, might even be losing for white. The best move is rook a to c8, which is very hard for white to meet. We're not going to go into it, it's a computer move, but Ding played bishop d7, and after f3, protecting the pawn. White could have maybe defended better by giving up a pawn, but I mean f3 is very natural, but now rook comes over to c8. And yeah, this is just absolutely horrible. This is attacked, and well, the rook can't go back to defend it because this will drop because of the bishop. So bishop to b1, but now b4. And this threatens bishop to a4 when we're hitting two rooks, so the rook retreats. We can't take on a3 just yet because of this knight hanging, but bishop a4 now. And look at this, just a quiet move, rook c7. Very simple threat, rook d to c8 and the bishop on c1 can't be defended. So Shankland tried bishop to a2. This either clears the way for the rook to defend the bishop, or maybe to give up something on c4. But Ding now can take on a3 because rook c7 also protected this guy. Rook b6, but it turns out that the rook doesn't have any squares. Bishop to c5, the rook goes back, and now bishop c2. And yeah, about to lose the exchange and down a pawn as well. Shankland resigned. So this was kind of a cool game. You know, black took the initiative with d5, and then sort of, you know, there was like a killer blow. He just built up, you know, small threats, and white just collapsed slowly but surely. Like knight g4, he took, a5 pressure, has to relieve it. You know, he's coming into c4, has to prevent it. He pins, reroutes the knight, attacks something, attacks something, attacks something, threatens something. You know, it's like a threat every move. The rook has to move, threatening the bishop. It's like an initiative move every move, and in the end, white collapses. Yeah, beautiful game. And Ding Liren proving once again that he is in great form. He is one of the best players in the world, and yeah, he's now leading the tournament along with Nepomniachtchi, who has drawn his last two games. But Ding, he's now on +2 with Nepo, and then we have a bunch of players on +1, including Carlsen, and and Anand, who has been having he beat Van Foreest, and then he had very quiet draws, but he's still in there, and anything can happen. But yeah, hopefully I'll see you soon with games from round 6. Once again, I would really appreciate support. If you haven't subscribed, there's a button right there, and please leave a like. I really appreciate it. Let's try to get to 100. We haven't for a while, and finally another video there. And yeah, see you later. Bye bye.